So, hey everyone, this is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And for some reason, you guys got on my social media, people got missed out on the first part of the show or the introduction of the show, and you guys all know who I am. So, um, there's no sense in reintroducing myself again. But I thought I would just spend an hour with you tonight. We're on vacation ourselves. We're taking this whole week off. We're spending some time with our family. We're getting recharged and refocused for 2024. But I did think to myself, hey, I could come up there and spend an hour with you guys and just see if we can work out some Christmas thoughts. And so that's what we're doing. All you guys that are joining us right there. Just finishing up. So yeah, some thoughts. The first thing I want to say is last Friday's show got more emotional than I was expecting it to. I told a story about an old friend of mine whose brother passed away, and if you guys saw that show, I'm not going to apologize for it because you know what, you get to a certain point. We had this conversation last night at my mother-in-law's house. It's like you get to a certain point in your life where when you finally get to the age where you start to realize, you just do some things super cool and you do some things super awful. It's just kind of the way life is. You're not perfect at everything. And when you're young, you think you can be. You think, man, I'll grow up and just be perfect at everything. But I haven't found it. Maybe you guys did. Maybe I'm the one that didn't grow up that way, but I haven't found it to be true. And so we were talking about that. And so one thing I have, what I know about myself is, I'm pretty transparent and pretty wide open, and my heart's pretty wide open. So when I have something that touches me like that story did last week, I'm not afraid at all just to share it with you. And sometimes I can't tell that story without crying. And so last week's show was that way. And but that was a pretty emotional deal. And then Saturday night we went to a candlelight church service. And I don't know how many of you guys have ever been to a candlelight church service, but that was actually my very first one that I can remember. I don't know if I went to one when I was a little kid or not, but we Hillside Church, where we're going to church, has a candlelight service. And man, you talk about an awesome experience. That was absolutely fabulous. There's praise and worship and Christmas music and all that type of stuff. And then they gave a little lesson, and talked about, it was a whole Christmas type theme, and they'd been going through the Old Testament and everything and mapping that out to what was going on in life. And then they just turned the lights out inside the room, and they had one spotlight up on the stage, and they had one big giant candle that was sitting up there on the stage. And it was an amazing moment because, you hear that all the time. I've heard it my whole life. Matter of fact, that same guy that I was talking about on the Friday show, whose big brother passed away, one of my really good friends, his name's Tim Fuller, been one of my good friends since I was in fifth grade. But Tim and I were college roommates for a year at Eastern New Mexico. And if I had that year to do over again, I'd do it over again. And because I was immature and stupid and fussed about things that weren't important. But one day, Tim, one of the compliments he gave me was one of the most awesome compliments I'd ever been given in my entire life. And he said, there's a song by Randy Travis called "Points of Light," and it talked about when the light meets the darkness goes away. And Tim, he said to me, he's like, dude, you're one of those guys. You're one of those points of light. And I really took that. I don't know if he knew it, but I really took that as one of the most awesome compliments that I've ever received in my entire life. And I remember we were in our dorm room when he said that to me, and I just remember what a big impact that made on me. And so my whole life, I've heard about that. I've read the book. I've talked about light. We are the light of the world. Subluxation, sub is less than, and lux is light, and ATION is a station or a place. And so you're in a state less than light. And so I've had lots of cognitive thoughts about light. I've had a lot of conversations about light, but I never really saw it visually. And man, Saturday night I got to see it visually, and it was super impactful on me because it came from one. It was one light. There was one candle in the room, and the entire, what do you call it, sanctuary, the entire area was church was just dark. They just turned out all the lights, and you just had the spotlight and the candle sitting up on the stage. And then the pastor said some words or something, and then he took his candle and he just lit his candle from the one candle that was on the stage. And I know you guys that have seen it, you guys already understand it, but then he passed that light off to two or three other people, just one at a time, and he lit their candles, and then they kind of distributed themselves through the congregation, and there were several hundred people there. It was a packed house, and and it was so um, amazing. It just was so blew me away how as one person shared their light with another person, how the whole room started lighting up. And I was watching, and I was there was just, it was like family member to family member. It was like husband to wife, or wife to child, or whatever. And there was this family, and sitting in front of us, there was a family of four. His mom and dad and two little kids. And the little boy looked just like his dad. He was a sharp dressed, had his hair all combed straight, shirt tucked in. He was a good looking little rascal. He probably wasn't 6 or 7 years old, maybe not even that old. I don't know how old he was, but he's a young guy. And then he had a little sister, and she was sitting there with her mom, and she couldn't have been 3 or 4 years old herself. But man, she did such a awesome job during that service. She didn't make a peep. She just sat there and was quiet the whole time. And both those kids were super well behaved, but they both had a candle, and so they were sitting right there in front of me. And so when the light got passed down, well, there was some lady that wasn't part of their family that was sitting to their right, and her candle got lit first, and then she walked down to the mom, and then because the mom was holding the little girl, and so she passed her light off. Two strangers, two ladies that didn't know each other, just passed their light to one another. And then the mom passed the light to the little daughter, and then the daughter reaches over to the son, and she passes her light off to the son. And so all these candles are starting to light up. And I just thought that was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful moment. I just turned my head, and I just looked back throughout the whole congregation, and then all of a sudden the whole room was lit. I mean, there were several hundred candles that were burning by this point, and now the darkness went away. And I thought, what a cool thing. Like what does it take to what does it take to pass our light off to someone? Like just take a moment and just shine your light bright into the world, and then you just share your light with someone else, and then that person shares their light with someone else, and pretty soon it's just like, hey, we're living in light. I thought I really was blown away. I thought to myself, what an awesome community to get to live in. What a great group of people to be around. What a joy of love that's shared amongst people. And what if the whole congregation lived the next day, and the next day, and the next day, in that same with that same spirit, that spirit of love that we're just going to share with each other. And what we do on the show is we try to detect and correct subluxation. And that's what we've said since the very beginning. And subluxation means interference in your nervous system. And what I know to be true is that when you're in a state less than light, when you're subluxated, you're in a state less than light, you're not shining your light as bright as you can throughout the world. And I don't know if I'm just really, really optimistic, or if I'm immature, or what exactly, how you would describe it, but I just really think that we have more darkness to eliminate. I think we have more light to shine. And I think that if we just push back a little bit against the darkness, sometimes what I say, sometimes, I've gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to say some things that maybe need to be said. And the reason for that is because I truly believe that there's the darkness out there is jacking with us. And you can just imagine all the things that happen when we're in the dark, when we're in the unknown, the fear that happens when we're in the dark, and the anxiety that happens when we're in the dark, all those right brain things that we know that mess us up. And what if someone just came along and shed some light on it? What if someone was to do that? And what if this show shed some light on it in our community? And then what if we could be better? What if we could be as good as we could be? That's what I really think that was a great visualization. Uh, I don't know what that word proper way to say that. I think what I got to see right there was even more inspiring to me because it gave me a little bit more passion to do that same thing. It was just a little bit more that we could do to share the light with each other. So um, it was great. Anyway, I thought that was fantastic. Thanks Hillside for doing that. It was great that we had the opportunity to do that, and then Sunday on Christmas Eve, got to go over with my mom, and dad, and have Christmas with them. Watch the Cowboys get beat. That was disgusting, but that's part of it too. That it's okay for Miami to have some light as well. So we got to spend some good time with family on Christmas Eve, and then we had Christmas at our house with just the four of us, and that's been something that's been really fun for us to be able to do at our own home and have our own Christmas morning together. And then we got up and got all ready and had breakfast and got ready and then got in the car and drove over to Roswell. And for you guys that are listening to us outside of Texas and New Mexico, and you don't know where Lubbock is and you don't know where Roswell is, well, it's about 168 miles to the west of us. And so then it's just and when you grow up in West Texas and in eastern New Mexico, 168 miles is not any big deal at all. It's just kind of like right over there. Like we just run over there for the afternoon. So you're used to driving places. And that's what we did. We drove over there and had dinner with them. My mother-in-law made a fantastic dinner. Got to see my brother-in-law and his family. Got to play some pool last night. It was good. Good social time. Good time. Leslie got to see her mom and got up this morning and had breakfast and then drove back this afternoon. And then we're going to get some work done this week. And I couldn't help but just analyze a little bit how my brain does the social interactions that take place and how interesting those social interactions are. And you guys are all out there too. You may have experienced the same thing over the last couple of days. You might still be experiencing it right now. And you might be sitting on the couch and finding this on social media somewhere and saying, man, I think I need a break. I think I just need to talk to somebody. I think I need Dr. Clemmons to talk to me and just give me a break for a second because I've already spent too much time with these family members. It gets weird, right? Don't you think? Like sometimes you just like can't get enough of them, and sometimes about 24 hours is all you need. And not that I'm saying that about my family. I'm just saying that it's just weird dynamics, right? There's just people that are not. They don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about the brain. They don't know anything about nutrition. They don't know. They got their own things that they're doing, and so it's fun to be there and to talk to them, but it's so obvious to me what a big job we've got for 2024. We've got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do to overcome some of the darkness that's out there and holding us down. And there's a lot of work to do, in just from a nutrition standpoint. There's it's let me shed some light on this to you because if you're one of those people that's decided, hey, you know what, I think I really want to be healthy, like I really want to start to get healthy, and I want to start changing my ways. You're going to create some uncomfortable situations in your family dynamics. You just have to understand that's going to happen, and I would just pre-warn you that it won't hurt anything just to kind of be calm and patient. Just be calm and patient, and just let them have a chance to metabolize it. Because just like last night, it's like I don't make a big deal out of what I'm going to eat. I'm not asking for any special attention since we're almost to 22 months since I've had any sugar. And yes, we had Christmas cookies there last night. We had fudge there last night. We had chocolate pie and apple pie and rolls and mashed potatoes and gravy and all the stuff, right? It was all there. And to me, I'm just going to eat. It's like, hey, I had some ham and some turkey. My mother-in-law actually did make me a sweet potato, and I had some green beans. That's my thing. That's my holiday meal right there. And that's what I had for Thanksgiving. And it's no big deal. Like, it's no big deal to me, but it sometimes makes the other people nervous. And, one of the things, it's totally understandable because they've known me. My mother-in-law's known me since I was 12 years old. Like, she's really known me since I was 16, and Leslie and I started dating. And this yesterday was Leslie and I's 37th Christmas together. Like, we've been, so this is only the second Christmas that I didn't eat that fudge and those Christmas cookies. So for 35 Christmases in a row, you're dang right I ate those Christmas cookies, and I ate that fudge, and I ate that chocolate pie, and I ate another piece of that chocolate pie. And I probably would have gotten over there into that apple pie if she would have brought that Bluebell ice cream out of that freezer, and I would have got into that too. And I would have had a double helping of mashed potatoes and gravy, and I would have gone right into the whole rolls, those big old rolls. And then this morning for breakfast, had those big old Grand biscuits, big old good looking Grand biscuits with butter and jam all over them. There's no way I wouldn't have made at least 2 sausage and eggs sandwiches out of all that for 35 years. Like, if we had donuts, I would have eaten the donuts. Matter of fact, if we would have gone to the donut store, even though my mother-in-law doesn't own it anymore, and we'd have gone and got some donuts and brought the donuts back. So all of a sudden, I'm the one that changed, and I'm the one that's different now. Everybody else is still the same, and I'm the one that's different. And now they don't know what to do with that. It makes them somewhat uncomfortable. It makes them somewhat like they don't know. They're like, what's his problem? He doesn't like to eat cookies anymore. Like, what an idiot. Like, and, and so I just have to be patient because I know that's going to take a couple Christmases. It's going to take a little bit of time. Number one, to prove that, okay, look, this is who I am now. It's not any big deal. I don't care about anybody. I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody else feel uncomfortable. I just don't want to eat any more sugar. I finally realized that in my life that I didn't want to eat any more sugar. And as you guys know that watch the show, I hadn't had much coffee in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And so I didn't have a cup of coffee this morning. Well, for I don't know how many years, ever since Starbucks existed, I would have gone and gotten a Starbucks, especially over the last 10 or 15 years. I would have gone to, and when I was in Roswell, I'd just gone and gotten a Starbucks for breakfast instead of having whatever coffee my mother-in-law was making. And so she's like, "Are you going to Starbucks this morning?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And she's like, "Well, would you like some of this coffee?" And I said, "No, thank you. I'm good." And then Leslie said, "Well, he's kind of hadn't been drinking coffee in a while." And then she wants to know, "Well, what's wrong with coffee? And what does coffee do to you?" And then my brother-in-law, he said, he was sitting over on the couch drinking his coffee, and he said, "It makes you happy." I'm not arguing with that. I'm not arguing with it at all. It's like, I just don't want to drink coffee right now. I feel pretty good about it. I feel fine. I don't need it. I don't feel drowsy. I'm not having any problem with it. I'm just kind of done with it right now. Got my own personal reasons for it. And so it's a new time, right? I just want to encourage you, for those of you out there who might be going through that same thing, just have patience. Just have some patience with everybody. just let them kind of work their way through it. Just be consistent. And my mother-in-law, we were sitting there kind of by ourselves at one point, and everybody else was kind of around in different rooms, and she's like, I don't know how you do it. And I was like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I didn't get into it with her. I didn't get into her right brain and her left brain and her dopamine and all the things and the lack of movement and how come her posture is getting bad and all this sort of thing. I didn't talk about all that stuff. I just knew it in my brain. I was like, yes, I understand, but I'm in a different place now. So those dynamics when it comes to it, but it's so obvious. There's so much sugar involved in meals. It's in all your dishes. Like, it's why we got to have sweet potato casserole and put sugar in there. And then we're going to have some sort of green bean casserole with that seemed, I guess, I don't know all the details of green bean casserole, but it seemed like it was rather okay. I don't know what that creamy mushroom soup is or whatever, but we've got, and then we've got mashed potatoes and gravy and all that stuff, and then the pie with the whipped cream on top of it, and then this morning with the jams and the jellies and the biscuits and all the stuff that went along with it. And it's like, man, those I just I know we talked about that on Friday, that you're the Grinch if you're the guy that's talking about that. But I'll just tell you right now, I didn't miss it. I looked at it, I saw it, I just passed it by. Didn't have a piece of fudge. It's two Christmases in a row for first. We broke a 35-year streak, and not worried about it. So I encourage you that you could do it too. If you want to do it in 2024, you can start it right now if you want. You can take that chocolate pie that's still in your refrigerator and throw the rest of it away. You don't need it. You're not going to want it. I promise you, it's not going to make you feel better. It's not going to make you feel better. You're not going to be happier about yourself after you eat the chocolate pie. You're not going to be happy with yourself when you have to unbuckle your britches, your jeans, snap on your jeans so you can get enough breath to be able to sit down and for the rest of the evening with your family, right? We all know that's true. That does not make us feel better when we do that. It's not going to make us feel better at all. All it's going to do is it's going to feed a little dopamine in our left brain, give us a little high for a second, and then now we got to deal with the consequences of it tomorrow. And so um, that's enough of that. That's enough of that idea. I love my family; they're great people, but they're going through a transition phase with me, and they need some time. So there's a couple things I was talking to my son on the way home. I said, "Hey, so got any topics that you want me to cover on the shows as we're going through the shows?" And he said, "There's a word, and I didn't even know this word, and it's called sonder, Sonder. And when we get back from the break, we'll get into a little bit more. We're fixing to go. We're fixing to go into a break right here, but I'll read it to you once, and then when we get back, it's called the feeling one has on realizing that every other individual one sees has a life as full and real as one's own, in which they are the central character, and others, including oneself, have secondary or insignificant roles. That's kind of it's an interesting word, and so when we get back, we're gonna break down that word sonder, and what it means, and how much of it's true, and how much of it I don't think is true, and because you might have more of a significant role than other people do realize, but it is kind of interesting where other people have their own lives out there. So um, you guys enjoy these messages. We'll take a break for just a minute, and then we'll be back on the other side of the break with Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Hey, for all you guys on Facebook, I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas, and I hope you guys are getting ready for an awesome 2024. I wanted to take this moment and just say, hey, if you've got any thoughts or comments or topics that you would like to cover, I'm working. That's one of the things I'm doing this week, getting some things done here at the office, but I'm also trying to get ready for 2024. in some of the topics that we cover on the show. And there's different directions that you can take a show like this, and we haven't really leaned into exactly the best way to take it. I'm trying to do it a little bit different than other things, other shows, because I don't want to be so trendy. I don't necessarily want to just jump on any topic that's out there and then go from one trend to the next trend to the next trend, because I don't think that's foundational, and I don't necessarily think it's health. But I do see where it could be beneficial. I do see where it might be beneficial to you if you're listening to it. If you got something that you want me to break down and you want to talk about, send me a message. Just either send me a text. You got our text line running across the screen there. You can send me a text and just um, and then if there's any topic you want to do, I think I'm trying to get a little bit more technology that we could use here in the office to teach better. And so I was talking to my son about some of those smart boards that they have. He's a theater teacher in Fort Worth at Pasco High School, and he said he's got one of those smart boards in his classroom that is super cool. And I'm thinking about maybe adding that to our podcast so we could teach a little bit more about certain things. I thought maybe next year we would get into some of the orthopedics a little bit, like break down the knee and the shoulder and the elbow and biomechanics of those things, and try to help you if you've got specific problems, joint mechanic issues, and then maybe even try to get a little bit more specific into each one of the nutrients, like what is vitamin D, what is vitamin C, exactly what those things are, so you can have a better understanding of how they work, how they help our health, what they do for you. Why is it that zinc helps deal with viruses and 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 that type of thing? So, um, any of the health topics that you might want to talk about in 2024, anything that might want to help with kids. If you've got issues with kids that you want to talk about, or something that you want to talk about with adults, something you want to talk about in aging, any topic you guys want to talk about, if there's something that I can cover, send me a message and let me know about it, and we'll add it to the list in 2024. See if we can share as much of this information, because I really want you to live the most optimal life possible. And um, so, anyway, let's get back to the show. Hey, everyone, we're back. This is Jason Clemmons, and you're listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are breaking down a word called sonder, and it's kind of a new word. It's like coined in 2012 by U.S. writer John Koenig in his blog, The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, perhaps partly based on French sonder, to probe, plumb, of unclear origin. So, but this word is an interesting. We were driving down the highway, and so there was a car coming this way. There was a bunch of traffic on the road today, probably as much as I've ever seen. Driving from Roswell back to Lubbock, it was crazy, the amount of traffic that was out there. But what my son was explaining to me was the idea that person that's driving in that car has a life that's full and real as we do, and that we're going to pass them for one moment, and we're never going to see them again, and we don't know anything about that person, and we're really insignificant in the total scheme of things when it comes to that person. And that's what the definition is: the feeling one has when the feeling one has on realizing that every other individual one sees has a life as full and real as one's own, in which they are central characters and others, including oneself, and have secondary or insignificant roles. Yeah, we're really big. Um, Let me read they use it in a sentence. In a state of sonder, each of us is at once a hero, a supporting cast member, and an extra in overlapping stories. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I got to thinking about that. Like, you know, some people are less of an extra than others. Some people actually do make a big difference in other people's lives that they don't even know about. Like, some people do push the envelope on things. Elon Musk is one of those people. Like, I mean, he's a guy that makes an impact in a lot of people's lives that they don't even know he's making an impact in. And um, I just thought that was an interesting word. He brought it up. I thought we'd go over it. Just kind of looking at it and saying that, there's everybody has a full life. And really kind of what I wanted to say about it was everybody has a full life and they got a lot of things going on. And sometimes we misunderstand them because we don't understand all the dynamics that are playing out in their life. That's kind of where I wanted to go with that idea, was that I'm not drinking coffee for my own reasons right now. That's my own thing, right? But it's misunderstood by my mother-in-law because she wants to know why I'm not doing that, and then that makes her feel a little bit guilty, like maybe I know something that she doesn't know, and then what kind of craziness am I up to now? And it's like, look, I have my own life, and she has her own life, and neither one of us are right or wrong. Just we're just walking it out, and so sometimes I probably don't do a really good job of that as much as I could, of paying attention to all the dynamics that could be going on in somebody's life. And when I hear something that I don't understand, maybe it's not because it's wrong. Maybe it's just because I don't have all the pieces to their puzzle. They have the pieces to their puzzle, and that's why they made the decision that they make. I don't have the pieces to their puzzle, so I can't make it. So interesting word. Then I wanted to get into some of the big stories of 2023, some of the big health stories. And so I just kind of Googled that to see what did the internet have to say with some of the big stories of 2023. And the two of them that jumped out to me, and the very first one on the list, this is at the Scientific American, the very first one on the list was, of course, the new generation of drugs that result in significant weight loss. And they appeared on the scene with dramatic effects. And so we got the Wegovy and the Ozempic, and you know these range from reducing the risk of heart attack or stroke or possibly treating addiction. But the medication comes with side effects such as gastrointestinal problems and muscle loss. That's the thing that people do not understand. There's lots of doctors out there talking about it. It was part of the conversation that was with Dr. Lustig and Dr. Huberman last week on that podcast that you can go back on Huberman Labs and listen to if you want to. But Dr. Lustig, he is the head of, or he was, when I first knew him in 2009 or 10, the head of endocrinology and metabolism at the University of California at San Francisco. And so he's a super intelligent individual. And so what he breaks down on that podcast what those two drugs are doing. And one of the things is they slow gastric emptying. They slow your stomach down so that it doesn't empty the food as quickly, and that you feel more full for longer. Then therefore you don't want to eat, and that you end up losing weight. And it's like, I'm telling you, the thing that gets me about this subject is the wolf wrapped in sheep's clothing, however that saying goes, with the illusion of health, that people think they're achieving because of this weight loss that they're getting. And it's a physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress that we deal with that breaks down health. And there was a mental problem there in the beginning. There was a physical problem there in the beginning, and there was a chemical problem there in the beginning, and that's how you got to be heavy in the first place. And that's what I know as a fact because I lived it for 30 years. Those 35 years of Christmases that we were talking about, and all those donuts and all those Christmas cookies and all that fudge and all those chocolate pies, I know what they did to me. They dang near killed me. And they drove me from 198 pounds to 283 pounds. They drove the joy out of my life. They drove the light out of my life, all as I was going through there. And there was there was some fundamental things that happened along the way. And I just wonder what would have happened if I would have had a drug to just come along and take the drug, and now I can lose 50, 60, 70 pounds. But all the doctors that I've listened to talk about it say that 50% of that weight loss is smooth muscle mass or muscle mass, period. So lean muscle mass. So you're not smooth muscle mass, lean muscle mass. So if you lose 40 pounds, you lost 40 pounds of fat or 20 pounds of fat, but you lost 20 pounds of muscle. It's like, that's not health. It's not healthy for you. And boy, I sure hope that my inclination is wrong, that what we're going to be dealing with next year and the year after is the side effects and all the carnage that's left over when these things happen. Because if you go to Wegovy's website or Ozembic's website, they'll tell you can lose like 16 point something percent body weight in the first year. But on a 2-year study, you're only about 4% body weight. It's like in 24 months from beginning to end, you're not any better than you were down the road, and the actual muscle mass that you've lost has been significant. So that was one of the big studies where we'll find out about that. Don't fall for that. It's not health. It's not health. Don't fall for that. It's not health. Okay. And then the next one was it was talking about long COVID and exactly some of the ideas of what long COVID, that they've learned about long COVID. And so even as the immediate danger of COVID has rescinded somewhat, tens of millions of people continue to be affected by long COVID. A cluster of symptoms such as fatigue, body aches, and brain fog that linger long after an infection. The cause of long COVID are still mysterious. The causes of long COVID are still mysterious, yet as Stephanie Sutherland wrote in this issue, in the March issue, it increasingly resembles a neurological disease. Not only does it cause cognitive problems with memory, attention, sleep, and mood, but it also has symptoms such as pain and malaise, extreme fatigue after exercise that seems to stem from autonomic nervous system, the autopilot that controls breathing and digestion, among other things. This new understanding could help guide treatments. Yeah, I really think there's something going on there. I really do think there's some issues going on with that thing. And I'm going to hopefully here soon share my opinion about that with you. The long COVID thing is some leftovers, and I'm one of those people that did not get vaccinated, and I'm not interested in the vaccine. You guys know that about me, but it doesn't matter if you had the vaccine or you had the COVID itself. I still think either one can leave a spike protein footprint, and whether you had the real virus, because what my understanding is with the real virus is that you get the entire package. You get the envelope with the spike proteins and the virus inside. You get the whole package when you get the COVID itself. The vaccine just has the spike protein, and that spike protein is hanging around inside the body. It's moving in and out, and it very well could have something to do with lots of problems that a person has. And one of those things is cancer, and you can just go in there and just you can look on it, and I'll do it right now, and you can just take your, and I don't even like to do it on Google, but I'll do it on, I'll just do it on Google and see what happens. But you could just go right there and say long COVID, or just spike protein and glioblastoma. That's just it's a brain cancer right there. And National Institutes of Health, and start right there. Can COVID-19 induce gliotumorogenesis through binding cell receptors? Well, it'll break it down for you right there, and it'll tell you about two different receptors, an EGFR receptor and a VEGFR receptor, which means endothelial growth factor receptors. that are on this brain cell, and that the affinity that the spike protein has for this receptor that's on the cell, and the disruption that it can cause. And so I've been doing some study on this, and so there is, I think there could be some of that going on. So it's like, what do you do about that? And what how can you, what is a person from a health and wellness standpoint? I'm not an oncologist. Talk to your oncologist about it. Ask them the same exact question that I just presented to you right there. But what would you do about it if you had it? What would you do about it if that thing was hanging around? What would you do about it if your blood pressure is going up? What would you do about it if you can't get your blood pressure to come down? What other things could be happening with this long COVID type thing? And working on your health would be the thing to do. Working on your glutathione, working on making sure you protect your mitochondria, making sure that your 6:3 ratios are right. All of those things that we talk about is to actually make yourself healthy. That it's the best option. Making yourself healthy is the best option. Just just go to the same exact thing. Go to Google and say, does sugar decrease immune function? And then NIH. Just Google that right there. Harmful effects of high amounts of glucose on the immune. It's the first one that pops up right there. Although glucose is vital for the proper function of immune cells and their proliferation, a high amount of glucose may lead to impaired function of the immune system and pathological conditions. See what I mean? Like that's the way I study. That's the way that I try to get those books, and I try to study that sort of thing. So there's two of them right there that we know from a health standpoint, not from a sick care treatment standpoint, but from a health standpoint. What would I do to keep my immune system up in a time of RSV that's running rampant all over the place, right? Everybody's got this. We had a bunch of people out sick last week. I went home to Roswell. They talked about people being sick with a respiratory virus. What's one of the things you could do to help yourself in a respiratory virus? Keep your cytokine storm down. How do you keep your cytokine storm down? Keep your body fat down. Keep your inflammation down. How do you get your inflammation down? Balance your 6:3 ratio. Keep your sugar out of the equation. Like, you see what I mean? It's like, I'm not just trying to be some sort of, I'm not trying to, first of all, I'm not trying to tell you what to eat. You can eat anything you want. I didn't say anything about those biscuits this morning with all that jam on them. They talked about which fruit stand they stopped at going to Ruidoso to get the jam, and how they only had one jar left, and I was going to buy you some, and all this stuff. I didn't say a single word about any of that. You're grown people. You can eat whatever you want to, right? I'm not throwing stones at you. I'm just trying to share information with you that says, hey, if you want your immune system to function better, don't hyperglucose yourself. What is glucose? What is sugar? It's 50% glucose and 50% fructose, right? Fructose is toxic. We go back. That's what we talked about last week. Fructose is toxic. It goes to the liver. Glucose is used by all the cells of the body, but too much glucose causes problems. Now, if you got long COVID, you got that spike protein floating around. That spike protein is causing some of these cancer cells these cells to become cancerous. What feeds a cancer cell? Go back to the metabolism. That cancer is a metabolic syndrome by Thomas Seyfried, right? What's he going to say? Glucose. Stop the glucose, right? We're talking about health. I'm not talking about treating a disease. Don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm trying to get off into somebody else's job. I'm not trying to get off into somebody else's job. I don't want the medical doctor's job. I don't want the oncologist's job. Those guys got tough jobs. I don't want those jobs. I'm talking about health. What do you do? What do you do for health? What are things out there that are logical things that we could deal with, and what can we do about it to try to keep ourselves as healthy as possible? Am I saying that you would not get a glioblastoma in your brain if you weren't eating sugar? I'm not saying that. There's plenty of evidence that people have been getting those for a long period of time. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's the cause of it. I'm just saying that if I was going to have to fight it, I'd rather fight it healthy than sick. I'd rather fight it as healthy as I can possibly fight it than to be sick when it shows up, if it does show up. So those are two big ideas, that health ideas for 2023. So there are some other ones on there, some really cool stuff, but it's kind of hard to explain. Um, Xenotransplants and CRISPR based treatments. Those are a little bit hard to explain on the radio and on social media in the amount of time that we've got. One of these cool little articles that I found that I thought was pretty cool for this year was um, scientists unveil complete cell map of whole mammalian brain. So, for the first time ever, an international team of researchers has created a complete cell atlas of a whole mammalian brain. This atlas serves as a map for the mouse brain, describing the type, location, and molecular formation of more than 32 million cells. There's 32 million cells in a mouse brain. Now, you guys have seen a mouse, right? Like, we're talking about a very, very, very small brain as compared to our brain. That's not a very big brain, that mouse brain. And the mouse has 32 million cells. How many cells does your brain have? It's amazing, right? That's a big deal. That's a big deal, the amount of cells that are in your brain. So we should try to take care of them. Make sure that they're functioning as well as possible. That'd be a big deal for us if we took care of our brain. And some of the ways that we do it, it's let me rewind back to the whole watch our sugar, increase our omega-3s, keep our 6:3 ratio healthy, make sure that our feet are moving, get on your feet, move, keep your eyes up, moving back and forth. All those things that we talk about when you're talking about keeping your brain healthy. It's super important, right? And then this article here that this is where it gets down to where the rubber meets the road, as they say, right? Higher income and longer working years are linked to better mobility. Longitudinal studies suggest enhanced musculoskeletal health can prolong working years and is associated with higher income. You're going to be richer the longer you can move. So, a new study on the relationship between mobility and income has shown that better mobility was strongly associated with higher income and longer working years in adults. The findings from research at the National Institutes of Arthritis and Musculoskeletal and Skin Disease, part of the National Institutes of Health, also suggest that maintaining mobility was linked to greater earnings over time. The study was published in Clinical Orthopedics and Related Research. This Dr. Criswell, I have long understood that greater mobility is an important indicator of good health. The notion that mobility can have economic rewards further extends the evidence for the benefits of exercise and maintaining an active lifestyle. This other doctor here says he is the head of this NIAMS Clinical Investigative Orthopedic Surgery Unit. He led the study, and he and his colleagues analyzed data from the federally supported health and retirement study, the largest representative longitudinal study of Americans over age 50, which explores the challenges associated with age on work, health, social, psychological, family, and economic status. This doctor and his team, Dr. B, I'm going to call him, measured the association between household income and mobility in more than 19,000 participants who responded to the survey, and they were put into different groups, whether they could move or they couldn't move, 1 through 5 levels. For every level drop in mobility, let me walk back here just a second. So participants were assigned to one of 6 mobility levels on their ability to complete a series of tasks: walking several blocks, walking 1 block, walking across a room, climbing several flights of stairs, and climbing 1 flight of stairs. A level 5 represented unrestricted mobility, while a level 0 indicated difficulty with the mobility task. So, ask them to do 6 things. For every level drop in mobility, participants faced a reduction of more than $3,000 in annual income. How interesting is that? When you lose your ability to move, you lose money. It's just straight up pretty simple. You lose your ability to move, you lose money. Um, and that's $3,000 of income. Next, the researchers evaluated the association between maintaining mobility and income. They identified a second group of individuals with unrestricted mobility who responded to the survey a total of 3 times, once in 2000 and 2 additional times by 2010. Those who maintained their mobility over the decade had incomes that were $6,500 higher than their less mobile counterparts and were more likely to be employed. Last, the researchers explored a role of exercise in maintaining mobility in a cohort of patients who were 60 to 80 years old in 2012. The researchers conducted follow up assessments at 2 and 4 years from their initial response. Those who were able to maintain mobility after the age of 55 had 19-point higher likelihood of maintaining an active working status. Engaging in exercises just once per week was significantly boosted mobility scores over time. That's it's a huge right there. I suspect that, like exercise, other approaches that benefit mobility may have a positive association with income. The next step is to study whether interventions that improve mobility are linked to improving income. Well, you dang sure know that um, mobility keeps your brain functioning better. We know that for a fact, right? And the better your brain functions, it would be logical. That's Jordan Peterson talks about that same thing. IQ is one of the top indicators for success, and one of the top indicators. There's multiple indicators, but hey, another indicator for success is being able to move. And if you can keep yourself moving over a long period of time, you do that over a decade. You gotta have a $6,500 a year income increase in income just by making yourself move, just by being able to get out and move. Your brain's going to function better. Your body's going to function better. You're going to be able to stay on your feet and stay after it. And I thought that was a fantastic. That was Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, and this was news releases from NIH. Um, I thought it was a great article, and just encouraging to say, hey, look, it's not too late. It's not too late to get healthier. It's not too late to get your body moving. You could do it at any age. I've got an 80-year-old guy working out with us. He just started at 80. Like he started working 80 and started working out when he was 80. He plays golf all the time, but he's just started working out with us when he's 80. We've got 70-year-old ladies that that work out with us, and they're fantastic, and they're moving great, and they're moving way better than they would be moving if they weren't exercising. And if just the fact that they are exercising is increasing their brain function, it's keeping their body healthy, it's giving them a better outlook on life, it's allowing them to shine their light bright into the world. It's a massively big deal. So that is our show for Tuesday, December 26th. I hope you guys have a fantastic night tonight. We're going to be back tomorrow night with a book review. I'm not going to work all day long and then show up. So, but I will come share an hour with you each night this week. I think it's fun, and maybe you could get something out of it. So, you guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow night at 6.